Historically and empirically, criminal behavior has been studied from the sociological dimension, but Adrian Raine gave biological root causes of crime in his 2013 book The Anatomy of Violence, in which he gave brain imaging scans of murderers showing reduced prefrontal functioning compared with those of controlled or normal subjects. He correlated behavior problems and temper tantrums in boys with lower total fatty acid concentrations as measured by blood. On page 214, he produced a graph showing relationship between seafood consumption and homicide. But the alleged actions of these two boys, Luigi Mangione and Tyler Robinson, go beyond the simplistic explanations of criminal behavior. In fact, they don't even fit into American Psychiatric Association's warning signs of dangerous kids. In fact, they don't even fit into causes of criminal behavior, or ones with mental health problems, or profiling school shooters. Mass shootings by white boys has become a norm in American society. Everyone remembers Michael Moore's 2002 documentary Bowling for Columbine, but I think PBS Frontline's documentary The Killer at Thurston High from the year 2000 on Kip Kinkle is far scarier because of the choice to use sound of gunfire to denote how the 15-year-old killed each person. Mangione and Robinson are the latest in a growing list of Gen Y and Gen Z young male adults, some say incels, who are unhappy with the status quo and make their displeasure known through acts of violence. You can see images of a few other American-born known or wannabe assassins and mass shooters on your screen right now. These guys are not part of ISIS or any known national or global terrorist network. They are just disgruntled boys with a gun. When Mark Ham and Ramon Sapage released their 2012 research as a book on lone wolf terrorists in 2017, their main argument was that unemployed single white males with a criminal record were the most likely profile of lone wolves, that these guys were likely to be older, less educated, and more prone to mental illness. Such guys feel deprived and believe government is responsible for their deprivation, whether it is discrimination or unemployment or anything else, and that this, quote, combination of personal and political grievances lead lone wolves to befriend online sympathizers, whether jihadists, white supremacists, or other anti-government extremists, and then announce their intent to commit terror when triggered, unquote, as given in the blurb of The Age of Lone Wolf Terrorism. Unfortunately, Mangione and Robinson's life does not fit into this theory either. What makes their story unique is their affluent status. And not just that, they were good students. Mangione is the product of a large Italian-American Catholic family. His dad had 9 siblings, his mom has 7. He grew up around lots of cousins. In Baltimore, his dad's side of the family owns a lot of commercial real estate, golf courses, assisted living facilities, and a conservative radio station WCBM 1370 AM that airs Charlie Kirk's show. As Gary Tuchman explained in a CNN report, Mangione's family run a family foundation with $4.5 million in assets and are longtime benefactors of a Maryland university. His dad runs the family business. His mom owns and runs a boutique travel company. Her side of the family owns and operates a funeral service. One of his cousins, Nino Mangione, is a Republican state legislator. Mangione had an Ivy League education, completed his degree as a valedictorian, and he could have been anything, but he chose to work for a car dealership remotely in Hawaii. Tyler Robinson's father owns a masonry business in Utah. His parents live in a $600,000 home, as per a New York Post story dated 17th July 2026. Robinson was a gifted student. He briefly attended Utah State University on a scholarship, but later dropped out. He spent his time gaming and chatting online, living separately from his parents. Before his arrest, he was working for an electrical contractor. Two young men, born to privilege, power, and money, with a life full of advantages and opportunities, descended into acts of domestic terrorism over the course of a year or so. Were they radicalized, disillusioned, or angry enough to take up arms? Let's look at similar other cases, other young adults who had their entire lives ahead of them, who were also born to privilege, power, and money, and like I said, with a life full of advantages and opportunities, who descended into acts of domestic terrorism. Just like these two people, going into a rapid decline in a few months or a year or so. In Pakistan, affluent young people are more likely to be involved in petty crime, drugs, theft, kidnapping, or murder than acts of terrorism. However, a few such cases have come to light, and I'm sharing them with you. Faisal Shahzad was 30 years old when he was arrested for attempting to detonate a car bomb in Times Square, New York, in May of 2010. What I'm about to tell you is based on separate news reports published on Al Jazeera and NPR websites that year. Shahzad is the son of retired Air Force Vice Marshal and Deputy Director General of the Civil Aviation Authority, Baharul Haq. This is a Pashtun family belonging to KPK province of Pakistan, which at the time of the incident was known as NWFP. Shahzad came to USA for higher studies in 1998. According to an Al Jazeera news report, quote, Shahzad graduated from the University of Bridgeport in the state of Connecticut with a bachelor's degree in computer applications and information systems in the year 2000, and later returned to earn a master's in business administration in the year 2005. Shahzad worked for about 3 years as a junior financial analyst at the Affinion Group, a marketing and consulting business located in Norwalk, Connecticut. Unquote. His wife was born in Colorado, USA, and is the daughter of a globe-trotting energy executive. New York Post's words, not mine. Both of their fathers, that is the globe-trotting energy executive as well as Shahzad's father, were questioned by authorities, Pakistani as well as American. This wedding picture was posted on MySpace by his wife's younger brother, Tawfiq Mia. Huma Mia was studying to be an accountant at the time. Both of them came from modern families, according to New York Post. Shahzad was just 24 years old at the time. He was married with 2 kids and lived in a working-class neighborhood of Connecticut in a 2-story house that he had bought for $273,000. Then in 2009, Shahzad lost the house to foreclosure. He left his job in June of that year too. He got his US citizenship that same year. 2009 seems to be a year of changes for Shahzad and his family. He lost the house to foreclosure, he left his job. On the bright side, he got his US citizenship. A lot of moving pieces in his life in 2009. He got along with his neighbors. An NPR report quoted a neighbor of his as saying that, quote, he was a nice guy as far as I knew, unquote. Then he went to Pakistan with his wife and kids for 5 months. He left them in Karachi and returned to US in February of 2010. He lived alone in a shabby rented place and is said to have made the gasoline, propane, fireworks and fertilizer bomb in a rented car that he drove to location at Times Square. Look at this particular report posted on New York Post's site, for which they simply sent a photographer, Robert Kalfus, to Shahzad's home, the apartment where he was living right before he took the car to Times Square. There's the garage. Then there's the room that the landlord referred to as Shahzad's hobby room to New York Post. Then there are the items in the kitchen. Coffee, sauce and olive oil, the Lipton tea bags, Morton salt and Oreo biscuits, the honey and the biscuits, and the pineapple slices. One thing that I actually would like to correct for New York Post is that they have identified Ahmed's mixed pickle, that green container, in a cabinet as a Middle Eastern food. This is a South Asian food. Nobody makes achar, pickle quite like South Asia. And this is a Pakistani brand, not a Middle Eastern brand. New York Post also looked into the fridge. Why not? There's meat. There are the brown husks and the energy bars, flatbread, basically pre-cooked roti, low-fat yogurt, bread, eggs, and a cooking pot as well. There's the fat-free milk. There are the oranges. And then moving on to other areas of the apartment, one room has fitness equipment. This is to help with the upper body workouts. So presumably Shahzad was health conscious. Healthy eating habits must be coming in handy in jail. There's a DVD of a George Clooney movie. There's Quran Majid, Muslims' holy book, and the tasbih. And maybe one of you can identify what that gadget is, which is at the front of the tasbih. The bedroom has the Ozad Trail air mattress, but no bed. One room has painting equipment, brushes and few paint tubes, sheets of paper, and then what looks like a bottle of oil. So if I have to take a guess, because New York Post hasn't identified the items, if I have to take a guess, these are oil paints, not watercolor. But of course, that's just a guess. There's the bathroom, Pantene shampoo and conditioner. It looks like he was living a bare minimum life just so that he could get the task done that he had probably come back for, and to have enough money to make a run for it. He was caught catching a flight to an Emirates flight to Dubai. Because if you notice, there are no children's items in this apartment. Maybe they were already taken by the law enforcement agency, who knows. But sometimes it's what's not there that stands out more than what is there. The investigative reporting on Faisal Shahzad was done almost entirely by Western news media outlets, with Pakistani media reproducing their work. And the visuals and text I have seen prepping for this analysis have a colonial tilt to them. Almost invariably, a village is shown as the location of Shahzad's family, quite ignoring his dad's elite status and benefits as a senior military man, his posh house in Peshawar, or the privileged in-laws, and his stay in Karachi. Shahzad pled guilty to all counts of terrorism-related charges and is serving his life without parole sentence at ADX Florence, a super maximum security facility in Colorado. His justification for the botched crime, as he told the judge, were American drone strikes in tribal area of NWFP, now called KPK, Pakistani province bordering Afghanistan, strikes which were widely believed to have a high ratio of civilian casualties to intended militant targets. In 2010, US drone strikes doubled to 115. The Brookings Institute calculated a 10-to-1 ratio of civil versus militant deaths in such strikes. Brookings Institute published a report on quality of life, governance, and security in Pakistan across multi-dimensional indicators. 2011, page 6 and 7 gave the annual number of unmanned drone strikes in Pakistan between 2004 and 2010, the location of the drone strikes, and estimated deaths during that period. The result of these drone strikes, apart from the killings, was that many families from these affected areas left. The number of internally displaced people is given on page 10 of that report. Of course, Pakistan's military was also conducting its own operations in the tribal areas during this time period. So the internally displaced people were not just because of the drone strikes. A lot of US aid was given to the Pakistani military, as well as for the development and restoration of the tribal areas. A lot of international donation was also promised to Pakistan. However, in a news piece without any byline published in English-language Pakistani Daily Dawn newspaper on 9th March 2011, Pakistan's military refuted the high civilian death toll of such strikes. I'm reading from the article now. Quote, In a rather rare move, the Pakistani military for the first time gave the official version of US drone attacks in the tribal region and said that most of those killed were hardcore Al-Qaeda and Taliban terrorists, and a fairly large number of them were of foreign origin. General Officer Commanding 7th Division Major General Ghayur Mahmood, who is in charge of troops in North Waziristan, said in a briefing in Miriamshah that myths and rumors about US Predator strikes and the casualty figures are many, but it's a reality that many of those being killed in these strikes are hardcore elements, a sizable number of them foreigners. Yes, there are a few civilian casualties in such precision strikes, but a majority of those eliminated are terrorists, including foreign terrorist elements. The military's 7th Division's official paper on the attacks said that between 2007 and 2011, about 164 Predator strikes had been carried out and over 964 terrorists had been killed. Of those killed, 793 were locals and 171 foreigners, including Arabs, Uzbeks, Tajiks, Chechens, Filipinos, and Moroccans. In 2007, one missile strike left one militant dead, while the year 2010 was the deadliest, when the attacks had left more than 423 terrorists dead. Unquote. A bit of a timeout over here. This is important in relation to Faisal Shahzad, because whether it's an official military figure or an unofficial death toll, whether it's 10-1, as Brookings Institute suggested, of civilian casualties to militant casualties, or as the Pakistani military's official version was that the ratio of the militants being killed is higher than the civilians. No matter which version you believe, the fact is that Faisal Shahzad believed that there were more civilian casualties, and that was a justification for doing any kind of attack on a foreign soil. Coming back to the article, the statistics continue. As per the official military version, Goth, in 2008, 23 drone strikes killed 152 militants. 12 of them were foreigners or affiliated with Al-Qaeda. In 2009, around 20 Predator strikes were carried out, killing 179 militants, including 20 foreigners, and in the following year, that was the year 2010, 423 militants, including 133 foreigners, were killed in 103 strikes. Unquote. In October of 2012, cricketer turned politician Imran Khan led 1,000-strong motorcade procession against the US drone strikes. The drone strikes were extremely unpopular in Pakistan, with Pakistani public. Faisal Shahzad's failure to launch a successful terrorist attack in New York since 9/11 may seem tame in comparison to the trail of bloodshed another well-to-do young guy was able to leave behind. And this brings us to the story of Saad Aziz. It's ironical that a laundry list of 25-year-old Saad Aziz's crimes came to light only after he and his 3 colleagues killed 45 passengers and injured more than a dozen in a gun attack on a bus carrying Ismaili Shia Muslims in the port city of Karachi, Pakistan, on 13th of May 2015. Once caught, he told the Joint Investigation Team that before carrying out the massacre, they had watched a video in which Houthi rebels were allegedly seen killing women and children in Yemen, which had inspired them to go ahead with the attack. Imtiaz Ali reviewed the JIT report for his piece published in Dawn newspaper on 13th of May 2016, and I am quoting from his piece. Quote, he revealed that his 3 colleagues started firing at the passengers while he was making a video with camera, which fell down from his hand when the vehicle took a jerk. He confessed killing the driver but claimed that he did not kill women and children. Unquote. Saad Aziz also confessed to JIT of being involved in a commission of several other criminal acts such as murder of social worker Sabine Mahmood. Here he is attending a T2F, the second-floor cafe panel discussion on Baloch missing persons with an accomplice. This picture is important because it was at this very event that social worker Sabine Mahmood was also present. She was shot and killed by Aziz shortly after the meeting ended. Saad Aziz also confessed firing on the American Deborah Lobo, who was vice principal of student affairs at Jinnah Medical and Dental College, a bomb attack on a naval officer and suicide attack on Brigadier Bassett of the Rangers. Then there were grenade attacks on schools, bomb blast and targeted killing of the Bohri community in different areas of Karachi, bomb attacks on police vans in different areas of Karachi, and the targeted killing of police officials in various areas of Karachi, as reported by Ishaq Danoli for Dawn on 10th July 2015. All these activities were done quite close to one another, with a gap of a month or so between each new terrorist attack. Excellent profiles on Saad Aziz were published in English-language Pakistani papers. Faisal Latif's piece for The Nation, 25th August 2015, and Atika Rahman's article for Dawn, 21st May 2015, and Sidra Roge's, I hope I'm pronouncing the name right, her assessment for the Friday Times on 5th June 2015. And then there's the interview that Nazia Said Ali and Fahim Zaman did with Saad Aziz for the now defunct monthly magazine The Herald. Their report was published in the July 2015 issue. You can find it and other related material on link shown on your screens right now. The information on his life is gathered from the handful of such articles published at the height of the infamy and confusion of his actions. Of the actions of a bright young man. In Pakistan, the soul-searching ends when media finds a new headline. No follow-up on Faisal Shahzad and Saad Aziz, no recent profile has made its way in Urdu or English language papers or broadcasts. So who was Saad Aziz, and what kind of family did he have? Saad Aziz's father was once a director for multinational Unilever company and owned a high-end restaurant, Kehwa. Their house was in an upper-middle-class locality, Gulshan-e-Iqbal. Aziz was the oldest of 3 siblings. He is said to have liked the music of American rock band Pearl Jam. He is remembered as a gentle and sweet person and a bright student. Aziz studied O-levels at the elite English medium Beacon House School in 2005, though he later on attacked branches of this very school. He did his A-levels from the equally elite the Lyceum Clifton in 2007 with excellent grades. He played football and tennis. He was active on Facebook. The widely published photo of Aziz available online and on news sites is his Facebook profile picture. No other image of his has ever been released. In fact, good luck trying to find a single photograph of Saad Aziz that is not in the right or left profile. The one that is widely circulated all over and reprinted over and over again is his Facebook profile picture. When Aziz was first arrested, his parents allowed Herald to cover them and their side of the story. But even that feature does not carry any of his personal photographs of him hanging out with his friends or family. Where the family members could have been blurred, even the Ali and Zaman article, in which they actually interviewed Saad Aziz while he was in police custody, even that investigative feature does not have a current picture of his. He has been making the rounds of different courts, but there's never any picture of him, either in police custody, court appearance, or military trial, has ever been released. Raftar YouTube channel does carry a picture of his, which seems like it was taken somewhere well beyond his IBA days, but it's not clear from that video where that picture was taken or the year or the date. It's unverified. But the most important factor to remember in the story of Faisal Shahzad as well as Saad Aziz is that they were not madrasa educated, a caricature for would-be terrorists of the Muslim persuasion. His education was in premier private facilities. He got admission in Institute of Business Administration, IBA, which is Pakistan's version of an Ivy League university. He fell for a girl and got rejected. Then in 2009, he did a 4-week internship at Unilever, where a fellow worker influenced or radicalized him towards so-called jihad by encouraging him to attend lectures at Tanzeem-i-Islami, founded by Muslim theologian Dr. Israr Ahmed. However, there are rumors that he was indoctrinated at IB's Iqra Society, one of university's student groups, for discussing religion. Alize Kohari and Leila Hussein's investigation into Saad Aziz's guilt took them from his family to the breadcrumbs of his influences. In a piece for Herald magazine published on 25th September 2016, they write, quote, Aziz served on the editorial board of Iqra Society's journal, Reconnection. Previous issues of the journal are currently unavailable online, but the Herald has the copy of one article written by Aziz in January 2011. It explores the challenges faced by political Islam, particularly due to laïcism, which he describes as a hard interventionist stance taken by a secular government against a religious minority or majority. Quoting Samuel Huntington and invoking conflicts in Bosnia, Palestine, Iraq, Afghanistan and Kashmir, he earnestly professes a clash of civilizations view of the world, noting that Muslim values are a threat to a Western civilization based on Judeo-Christian values. Citing Quranic verses and hadiths pertaining to jihad, he concludes, the Judeo-Christian West with all its technology and power can't inculcate these feelings of martyrdom in its followers because they fear death, unlike Muslims who view death as a means of meeting Allah. Unquote. Aziz told JIT that students or attendees of Tanzeem-i-Islami lectures were told that corruption is the root of all evil in Pakistan and the only way to end it is through violence. On completing his BBA, undergraduate degree from IBA in 2011, he started working at Dad's restaurant, Keva, which Aziz renamed as Cactus, served Mexican and continental dishes, and hired a company to handle its social media accounts. So far so good. But then he went for terrorist training to Miramshah in North Waziristan near Pak-Afghan border, one of the places heavily targeted in those US drone strikes. Remarkably, he did tell his family that he was going for training to Afghanistan. The 25-day training turned into a 4-month-long sabbatical. Once back home, he got married and produced kids and stayed in contact with his wannabe terrorist colleagues through WhatsApp, Skype, and Viber. He ultimately went rogue in 2013 with aliases Tintin and John. At the time of his arrest, he was the father of 2 kids, a 2-year-old daughter and a 9-month-old son. Aziz was sentenced to death by a military court in 2016 for some charges that were brought solely in front of the military court. Military's media wing, ISPR, confirmed this via a press release dated 12 May 2016, which called him and 4 other death sentence awardees as active Al-Qaeda operatives. But in an anti-terrorism court on 12 January 2021, on separate charges, he was sentenced to 50 years imprisonment. I've seen local TV channels in US in different states, different districts here who continue to do 5 years later or 10 years later or 20 years later commemorative programs. I've seen nothing like that in the case of these people. For example, I would like to know how Faisal Shahzad is killing his time in ADX Supermax prison that also actually used to have Ted Kaczynski and at one point also had Timothy McVeigh. Still has Ramzi Yousef. Kaczynski could do interviews. Why can't Faisal Shahzad? That is something that I think is worth exploring. Same is the case with Saad Aziz. He's not dead yet. He hasn't been hanged. How the families of these individuals coped with the crime, coped with the loss of their son, And of course, no follow-up story has been done on the survivors of various attacks that were committed by Saad Aziz and his group of friends and associates. Unlike the West, I think it's very easy to bury stories in Pakistan. We just think of these people as snapshots in time until the next one happens. The image you are seeing on your screen right now, screenshot of a CCTV camera footage, shows a burqa-clad woman standing near Karachi University's Confucius Institute, a non-profit institution sponsored by the Chinese International Education Foundation. It's the afternoon of 26th April 2022. A white van is visible in the background, driving towards the gate. Seconds later, the woman will detonate a bomb strapped to her body and take the lives of 3 Chinese tutors, including the director of the institute, and others such as the Pakistani driver, injuring half a dozen more. The 3 Chinese who were killed in the attack, Huang Guiping, the Chinese director of the institute, Mufang, a state-assigned teacher, and Chen Sai, a volunteer teacher. If I'm mispronouncing any of their names, I apologize. The information that I'm about to tell you has been gleaned from the Chinese language news sites, which covered the story, relayed bios of the victims, and carried statements from the Confucius Institute as well as Chinese ministries. I'm just going to read out different passages from these news stories. It has been translated from the original Chinese language, so just consider everything in quotation marks. Quote, on 22nd May 2013, relevant parties from China and Pakistan signed a cooperation agreement to establish a Confucius Institute. The institute launched Pakistan's first joint undergraduate program in Chinese language. The institute welcomed a diverse group of students, including university students, business people, and seniors, offering a rich variety of classes such as Chinese voiceover training, public speaking, Chinese cuisine, and the recitation of classical poetry. The Confucius Institute at the University of Karachi is currently the largest of its kind in Pakistan. It comprises 15 Chinese teachers and volunteers, 9 local teachers, and over 6,000 registered students operating across 5 off-campus teaching sites. Unquote. So who was Huang Guiping? Quote, Huang Guiping, who would have turned 60 in 2023, was the inaugural Chinese dean of the Confucius Institute at the University of Karachi. In 2013, when Sichuan Normal University and the University of Karachi jointly established the institute, Huang, then the Deputy Dean of the School of Foreign Languages at Sichuan Normal University, answered his university's call and traveled to Karachi to build the institute from scratch. His son Huang Di said, he often told me that the creation of the Confucius Institute was an arduous journey, and achieving its current scale was no small feat, noting that his father poured his heart and soul into the institute's establishment and development. Zhang Xiaoping, the former director of the institute, recalled that living conditions in Karachi were harsh and the security situation was poor, making the work extremely challenging, particularly during the initial setup phase. Yet, Huang Guiping, in his view, never hesitated or wavered. Even after stepping down from his post and returning to work at the university's Office of International Cooperation and Exchange, Mr. Huang remained deeply committed to the development of Confucius Institute, frequently participating in China-Pakistan friendship and exchange activities. In June 2021, he represented the university in donating the 5th batch of anti-epidemic supplies to Pakistan. Zhang Xiaoping noted, this image relates to donation of anti-epidemic supplies to Pakistan. Remember, this is still the COVID era. When the university was selecting its 4th dean, it consulted Dean Huang. He readily agreed to return to Pakistan, believing that his familiarity with the local environment and culture would facilitate the work. In March of 2022, Huang volunteered to serve a 2nd term as the Chinese dean of the institute. This time around, he had also decided to take his wife with him to Pakistan, Upon returning to Karachi, he spoke movingly at the 7th Pakistan Day Chinese Speech Contest hosted by the Confucius Institute. He said, "Karachi is my second home. I will continue to drive the Institute's development and build an even better Confucius Institute." Unquote. This image's photo credit is Confucius Institute at the University of Karachi when they hosted the 7th Pakistan Day Chinese Speech Contest. You can see Mr. Huang in it. The second image is captioned, "Huang Guiping and his delegation visit NED University of Engineering and Technology." The photo credit is Sichuan Normal University, and the date is March 28th, 2022, just a month before his death. Then there were the state-sponsored teacher Ding Mufang, who was born in the 1990s, and volunteer teacher Chen Sai, who was born after 1995. Their ages have not been given in any news piece, but they were young, in their 30s. So Ding Mufang, quote, "In 2017, Ding Mufang earned her master's degree in international Chinese language education. That same year, she launched a personal WeChat official account titled A Chinese Language Flower Chasing Dreams Afar. And in her first post for the WeChat official account, she had written, 'Driven by the ideals and spirit of volunteering, we strive to promote and disseminate Chinese culture, dedicating our own efforts to becoming humble yet great volunteers in the field of international Chinese language education.' Over the next 5 years, Ding served as a volunteer teacher in Thailand, Indonesia, and Pakistan. In 2021, she became a state-sponsored teacher. To enhance the effectiveness of her teaching, Ding diligently kept a daily teaching journal and constantly explored diverse pedagogical methods. Ding wrote the following words in a WeChat article in 2020, shortly after she had arrived in Pakistan. "Whenever we walked through the residential complex and encountered Pakistani children, they would run over enthusiastically, their bright sparkling eyes full of life, repeating the greeting, 'Ni hao, ni hao, ni hao.' I think this is perhaps one of the manifestations of the friendly relations between China and Pakistan, a reflection of the desire for connection and the warmth of human interaction." Unquote. And then we come to Chen Sai. Quote, "Chen Sai had graduated with a master's degree in teaching Chinese to speakers of other languages from Sichuan Normal University in 2021, a year before her death. In that same year, she came to Confucius Institute in Karachi and became the only volunteer teacher in international Chinese language education sent there during the pandemic, that is, during the COVID pandemic era. Chen Sai could have concluded her term and returned to China in May of 2022, but she had decided to stay on. On the day the terrorist attack occurred, she was busy preparing for the Karachi regional preliminaries of the 21st Chinese Bridge Chinese Proficiency Competition for college students. A perfectionist, she would often tell her colleagues that if given a little more time, she could do even better." Unquote. The ashes of the 3 victims were taken back to China on a chartered flight, as per a press statement dated 29th May 2022, posted on Confucius Institute's website. There was also an injured Chinese teacher who was state-sponsored teacher Wang Yuqing. Fazl Gilani's commentary, posted on Chinese think tank Grandview Institution GVI's site, dated 2nd June 2022, has this image of Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's, he was the Prime Minister at that time too, condolence note, which he wrote during his visit to Chinese embassy in Islamabad. PM Shehbaz wrote, "We are shocked," deeply has been added to the shock, "and distressed at this dastardly is spelt wrong. It should be DAS instead of DIS. Attack on our Iron Brothers. Iron Brothers is in quotation marks. All Pakistanis mourn their loss and offer their condolences to the bereaved families. We remain committed to eliminating all militants and terrorists from Pakistani soil. We won't rest until the culprits are hunted down and given exemplary punishments." There's the signature, and it's dated 26th April 2022. And it's on a sheet of paper that has a Chinese language logo on it. And what about Khalid Nawaz, the driver of the shuttle bus, who was also killed in the attack? Well, he had a wife and 7 kids. According to Israr Ahmed, a post shared on Hello Pakistan's Facebook page, Khalid Nawaz had 5 daughters and 2 sons. He had been working as a driver for this institute since 2016. The federal government and the Sindh government both announced compensation packages for his family. The Sindh government also reiterated that the educational expenses of his kids will be covered by the Sindh government and that a government job will be provided to one of his family members so that the family can be continued to be provided for after the loss of the main breadwinner of the family. His coffin was wrapped in Pakistan's national flag as it made its way from the morgue, a private morgue, to the site of the funeral prayers and his place of burial. Pakistan's first female suicide bomber is 30-year-old Shari Baloch, whose Twitter handle carries the name Shari Baloch. She was married with 2 kids, an 8-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son. Her name is pronounced in some newsreels as Shari and in others as Shari. I'm going with how her uncle said her name. He called her Shari in the interview he gave to Munisa Jahangir. Her husband is a dentist and a lecturer who went into hiding with the children shortly after the attack. Incredibly, he told media outlets that he had known about Baloch's inclination for 2 years before the attack occurred. The Guardian newspaper reported him as saying that, quote, "Shari informed me around 2 years ago about her decision. There are multiple factors behind her decision," he said. She chose Bramsh as her alias, which is the name of a 4-year-old child whose mother was killed by a private militia in 2020. 2 other deaths in 2020, those of Hayat Baloch, a student of the University of Karachi killed in Turbat by a Frontier Corps soldier, and Karima Baloch, a political worker who mysteriously died in exile in Canada and was buried in her hometown under a curfew, had a deep impact on her. When Shari Baloch learned of Karima Baloch's death, she called her husband. "I remember she was very upset. She told me that the enemy cannot even accept peaceful methods of politics," he said. These incidents started a wave of protests against the state and the security forces. She believed people in Balochistan were living under oppression, Bashir said. His wife used to say that innocent Baloch are killed and abducted, and these brutalities will reach our family if we do nothing. A close friend of Shari Baloch told The Guardian that Shari had once said to her that our men are humiliated, tortured, and abducted. I wish we had died before witnessing such humiliations. Unquote. There is a video of Shari Baloch making a speech where she speaks of her decision to become a suicide bomber and declaring that Baloch women should stand with and help their Baloch brothers. She believed after her attack, more Baloch women would join men in this war as either Fadai attacks or any other role in what she called the resistance. Baloch's uncle told Munisa Jahangir in her program dated 11th May 2022, quote, that Baloch's speeches indicate she was aggrieved over what he referred to as the forcible takeover of the mineral-rich Balochistan and its resources, which had deprived Baloch people from its benefits. Unquote. The banned Baloch Liberation Army claimed she had volunteered for the attack. It was probably inevitable that an entire female generation growing under the cloud of what is commonly referred to as enforced disappearances or kill and dump policy of Baloch men would one day develop violent tendencies. Just last year, that is 23rd March of 2025, Farhad Javed's excellent piece on BBC website titled "A Life Spent Waiting and Searching Rows of Unclaimed Bodies" gave voice to the trauma suffered by the women left behind. But Baloch's family had no such case. and no such trauma. Despite initial rumors to the contrary, news media could not find any member of her family who was picked up, tortured, killed, dumped, or declared missing, except a fifth cousin who was killed during a military operation in 2018 in Kech, reported in an Express Tribune story dated 1st May 2022. A bit of a timeout over here. I think this needs a bit of explanation. Newsweek reproduced on its site a story done by William McGee for Zenger News. And in that particular piece, McGee alleges that Shari Baloch's father, Abdul Wahid Gambar, was picked up by soldiers when Baloch was just a girl, that she went on a hunger strike and in 2009 wrote to the then Chief Justice of Pakistan for his safe return. In 2009, the CJ of the Supreme Court must have been Iftikhar Chaudhry, but I'm not sure, because it depends on the month of that particular year. And this crisis gave her the impetus to join BLA's Majid Brigade in 2020, that is Baloch Liberation Army's Majid Brigade, which specializes, by the way, in suicide bombings. So that is something that has been reproduced on the Newsweek magazine's website. And in searching for relevant information, or just to see whether there is some veracity to it, there is a news report published in Dawn newspaper on 5th June 2007 with the headline, "Missing Man's Family Demands Justice." This is a story with no reporter byline, and it is about the 3-month disappearance of a man named Abdul Wahid Gambar, that is Wahid. This piece says, quote, Mr. Gambar's 12-year-old daughter, Shari, accompanied by her mother and younger sister, Meloob, spoke at a press conference at the Karachi Press Club and said she feared for her father's life. She said her family belonged to the Thump area of the Makran region. On 14th March 2007, she said her father had been picked up by law enforcement agencies, and since then his whereabouts were unknown. She feared that since the cases of enforced disappearances had become common in Balochistan, her father might meet the same fate. According to Shari, though the ISPR, that is Inter-Services Public Relations, military's media wing, had conceded that her father was under arrest, it was not being made public. Unquote. A picture of the 3 female relatives of this Abdul Wahid Gambar is also printed along with the news. So while it is possible that the 2 Sharis are the same, it is equally possible that they aren't. Besides, her father's name is reportedly Muhammad Hayat Baloch, not Abdul Wahid or Wahid Gambar. In fact, born in Kech district of Turbat, a Balochi province, she came from an affluent middle-class family living in a bungalow-style house. Her father served as a director in a government agency posted in Planning and Development Department and was the retired registrar of Turbat University. Baloch had 9 siblings. She was number 6. Her siblings are highly educated and most of them hold government positions. This is according to Bolan Voice, by the way. As per an article in the news, her aim was obviously to become a teacher or have an administrative position in the educational sector, because in 2014 she did her B.Ed, followed by Masters of Education in 2018 from Allama Iqbal Open University. Allama Iqbal Open University, AIOU, provides distance learning. So I don't know whether she attended their campus or whether she just sat at home and filled up Q&As. Reportedly, she also has a master's degree in zoology from Balochistan University. She was also pursuing an MPhil from Allama Iqbal Open University, Turbat campus, and teaching science at a government middle school in Kalatak. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right, a place that is situated 20 kilometers from Turbat. Apart from being a member of Balochistan Student Organization as a student, she had no affiliation with any known activist or nationalist group, but she is said to have joined Majid Brigade of Baloch Liberation Army, a banned outfit, which believes in armed struggle for independence of the province. 2 years later, she was standing at the gate of Confucius Institute at 1:52 p.m. Shari Baloch was active on Twitter, which she had joined in December of 2021, 4 months before the suicide bombing. That account on Twitter, now called X, is still active, or at least the page has not been removed, and the account has not been removed either. She posted a cryptic goodbye at 2:10 p.m. on 26th April 2022, presumably either right before the attack or it was a scheduled tweet. I've used the word Twitter because the site was called Twitter around the time of the incident, and all news stories carry the word Twitter. Journalists Hassan Siddiqui and Shahabullah Yousafzai looked at her Twitter feed, or X feed, for Express Tribune, and found that she shared quotes from revolutionaries such as Che Guevara, Rousseau, and classical and modern writers, authors, and poets, including Dante Alighieri, Mark Twain, Robert Heinlein, and Paul Coelho. There's a quote from Mahatma Gandhi posted 17th April 2022, Che Guevara on 19th April 2022, and a day before the attack on 25th April 2022, a quote by Fidel Castro. Interestingly, the Twitter feed given on memory was accessed by the site on 27th April 2022, so it's safe to assume that it is without any embellishments, which may or may not have occurred later on. Most tellingly, perhaps, on 6th February 2022, she shared a Balochi singer Kaifi Khalil's mashup song, which goes like this: Meri umeed mera pyar, meri aas raho, mere paas raho, which roughly translates to my hope, my love, stay with me, stay with me. And on 1st April 2022, she tweeted in English, my only competitor is the person I was yesterday. In the story of Balochistan and its sandy loams, you'll find strands of many things, but not enough space to talk about them. You will also be hard-pressed to find a bipartisan voice on what is happening over there, or in Islamabad for that matter. So some of you would argue, probably, what's so new about another radicalized individual committing terrorism? There was Osama bin Laden, Timothy McVeigh, David Headley. In the case of Pakistan, take pages 50 and 51 from Muhammad Amir Rana's self-published book, The Militant, Development of a Jihadi Character in Pakistan, published in the year 2015, in which he lists the socio-economic status and criminal mindset of a militant, his or her desire for a normal life, and family's inclination towards religion. These factors are missing from what is known about Shahzad, Baloch, etc.